Hello, everyone. This is Ariana Prasad, and I'm here with Ashmir Prasad. We're here to bring you Sunday Slay, and we're a little bit delayed. I know it's a Wednesday. We usually do this on Mondays, and it's 7:15. But you know what, guys? We run on Indian Standard Time. I'm sorry, we just can't help it. So we're a little late. We're sorry about that. Sorry, what? We're late forever, right?
You have to excuse us forever, yeah.
Yes. So always hopping on the stream late, but we're here ready to bring you, the best tweets we've seen in the NFL this week. Once again, week 16 was wild. And we're going to take you through that a little bit. And I think the most shocking thing this week, obviously, the Jets have been losing all season. And for once in our lives, the Browns were actually really good this year. But they faced off against each other for a really surprising game. So it was the Jets-Browns game. And the Jets actually won this one as their second straight win, which is surprising. A 23-16 win over the Cleveland Browns. And I just have a quick Twitter roundup I want to show you guys because, as I said, it's hilarious and the internet was loving it. So Jets beat the Browns. Chiefs barely get by the Falcons.
Oh, my boy Jim.
Some basketball scores. What is going on?
I love that tweet.
Yeah, so it's like, what is going on in the world? And then here's a little bit, the NFL normal. Des Bryant scored against the Giants. The Steelers won. The Browns lost. And the Falcons choked. Things are all back to normal in the football world. So yeah, it's pretty surprising. So, Browns fans were having one reaction to this. Monday, after a long weekend of Browns playoff chances in jeopardy because of the goddamn Jets. Hey there, demons. It's me, ya boy. So that's what, the Browns world is feeling right now. And then this is pretty funny. This is some, inter-fan base conflict. So the Browns fans were laughing at the Steelers. Oh, my gosh, you just lost to the Bengals. Juju got hit sticked after doing the Corvette dance. All right, everyone's dying. Then this is Browns fans after the Jets game. Okay? Not having it. But on the other hand, the Jets fans are having a bit of a different reaction. They're, kind of actually upset as well. But this is funny. The Jets have more wins in the last 3 weeks than the Steelers. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then this is kind of how the Jets feel right now, right? So the Jets just beating the Jets. Guys, they lost Trevor Lawrence in the draft. So that is just, it feels like they're beating themselves, which is something, with some of these dysfunctional organizations, like the Browns have been in the past, and the Jets have been for quite some time, just feels like they're beating themselves. But there might be something else at play with this, okay? So Bill Belichick, who hates the Jets, this might be what all of his doing. So that's kind of the joke, right? So Ashmir, I just want to know, what are you thinking about this Browns-Jets game? Are you surprised or?
Okay, first of all, I want to commend you for all of that content you just found because I think the entire sports sphere saw those tweets, but just to see them again, especially a couple of days after the Browns lost and they had so much potential. They still do, depending on how this week goes, but I just love the Jim tweet. I loved all of them, so great job. And I want to bring it back and ask you a question as to why do you think the Browns lost? I believe it's based off of not having their key receivers, and that is my main thing. And I also think that that's going to affect them this week. I haven't heard any noise about the return of anyone. So I want to see, are you along the same lines as me? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I think that's a huge effect on this team. Obviously, quarterbacks build chemistry with particular receivers. And as we know, I don't know if you guys heard this story, but apparently all the Browns receivers got wiped out because one player was in a hot tub with a bunch of other players, and they all got COVID. So they all got knocked out of the game, which, again, makes you think, like, I know it's hard for these NFL players, but sometimes they're doing things that are a bit reckless, and that's kind of how this feels. So, are they having that downward slump, this thing that Browns fans have been praying wouldn't happen, but it finally is? Hello, this is the Browns again. Of course they're going to blow it. We hope not. I'm not a Browns fan, but I would like to see them make the playoffs just because they've had it hard. But I do also think part of this is maybe the Jets just coming off a win, like that momentum really propels your team. Like, hey, we just beat the Rams, one of the toughest teams in the NFL. we're about to beat the Browns, who were slated to just go ahead and make the playoffs. So, maybe that's another element of that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the performance by the Jets, if you watch the highlights, like how was Darnold able to run all over the Browns defense, right? One of the top 15, I guess you could call them, defenses right now. And the way that the Jets had performed, Darnold was able to get the ball down the field. They just played as if it was week 5, right? Like they just had a rough 5 weeks. They are 0-5. Now they won their first game. Then they won their second game. It was just like almost like their buffer stage, even though the season's over now. So I think for losing the chances of Lawrence isn't a huge deal. I believe that the Jets can take the end of this season and really build up for the rest of the year next year and make themselves what they should have been all along, which, I mean, they have great key offensive players, but Perrion also just has COVID, so that's a big bummer. But the Browns had the best receiver in the NFL, and then at the end he had to get hurt in order for Baker to succeed, which I still think that's such a strange statistic that we were able to find out that Baker played better when OBJ wasn't on the field. I think that's bizarre. Right. But yeah, for the Browns to win this weekend, they got to beat the Steelers. They're playing Mason Rudolph, who we all know everybody loves, especially after last year and all of the fun things that happened between the Steelers and the Browns. So this game's going to be hopefully not as crazy, right? I mean, I hope that there's no helmet-to-helmet contact, crazy attack action there. But I think the Browns could pull the win off. It all depends on, the consistency and the turnovers. There can be literally no turnovers in order for the Browns to win.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They have to have this game down pat. Whatever is going on with their receivers, they've got to be able to figure it out, whatever they're going to do, and solidify that. And yeah, they do have to win this week. But actually, the interesting thing about playoffs, if they don't win, then this is what needs to happen. If they lose, they can still make playoffs. If the Colts lose to the Jaguars, or if the Titans lose to the Texans, the Dolphins win versus the Bills, or the Ravens win or tie versus the Bengals. So that's kind of the interesting thing, is that there's so many things in flux with this playoff season. And we'll get into that a little bit later with our guest that's coming up. So yeah, that, it's a wild time in the NFL. And another surprising thing that happened is that there's one division in the NFL where the playoff winner is actually not clear cut, and that is the NFC East. I'm just going to go ahead and show you the scores from the NFC East, okay?
Oh my God.
Right. Just look at it, soak it in, okay? Now, one of these teams is going to make the playoffs because obviously, as we explained last week, one of them, one of the teams from each division is going to go to the playoffs. So one of these teams has to win. And for non-football fans, none of these are a winning record, by the way. So I let that soak in. Okay, we're going to go on to talking about that Eagles-Cowboys game. So one of those teams has actually been knocked out, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Sorry, Eagles fans, no way you can make the playoffs. Cowboys fans, you still have a chance. So they won. The Cowboys dominated in a 37-17 win.
Dominated.
And it's actually their third straight win. So that means they were 3-9. Okay, that's wild. But yeah, okay, they can still make the playoffs. So the Eagles are the only NFC team out, as we said. And I'm sorry, Cowboys fans, but I have to show you this. This is a Christmas-themed one. Please don't take children for believing in Santa. I know adults still believe in the Cowboys. All right, that was a few weeks ago. Maybe it's okay to believe in the Cowboys now, right? So,
yeah.
All right, Ashmir, what are your takeaways from this, surprising Cowboys win?
If you had asked me in week 4, what I had expected to happen to the Cowboys, I probably would have said they would be leading the division, but not in this whirlwind of events that they've come through. Andy Dalton was looking super shady, bad playing in the beginning, and nobody trusted him, couldn't get the ball out. It's classic stuff. Bengals fans were tweeting at Cowboys fans, we know the pain, don't feel bad. It's just Andy's fashion. And the blowout against the Eagles. Now, will that continue for the rest of the season if they make postseason? I'm not sure. But I think the connection that Andy Dalton and CeeDee Lamb have made in the past couple of games is what's going to carry them on. I'm still very butthurt as a Raiders fan that we didn't get CeeDee Lamb. I think Ruggs is not bad, but the way that Lamb has injected himself into the Cowboys offense. Like, he is making himself the receiver 1.5 right after Amari Cooper. You know, he's making sure that he's open, getting the balls and being a part of all the plays. And I think that's what's making the Cowboys win and helping them, you know, especially against the Eagles defense, which we know has been pretty faulty since the beginning. But that game was exciting. You know, they forced Jalen to throw turnovers. Like, it was a very good job. So I think in order for them to win the division, which I'm predicting they will, they're just going to have to play that same way, especially because I think they're playing Washington this week, right? Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. That's the Eagles. They're playing the Giants, which they'll either way, they're in the same division. But I think they could knock the Giants out, no problem. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. And yeah, it's taken time for Dalton to build this chemistry with this team. When Dak was knocked out in week 5, I know I was pretty concerned about where were the Cowboys going to go from here, because Dak was slinging it those first few weeks. And even with when they played the Seahawks early on, just getting a lot of yards and everything. So that kind of derailed things. We know COVID has hurt things a lot. They lost a lot of their secondary throughout the season due to COVID and injuries and all these sort of things. A lot of people are decimated at this point, but the Cowboys are resurging. So as we said, they're coming off 3 wins. You know, they're playing against, you know, a division rival. But as we said, this is the worst division in the NFL. So it's one of the best matchups they could have. And as you said, Lamb he's part of a core that has been so dynamic. Michael Gallup was actually incredible in this past game, as fantasy managers of him may know. But CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup they're all very capable receivers, and they're building that chemistry with Dalton, which is going to go great if they do make the playoffs. And then Zeke, you know, he came back this game. He was finally fed, as his tattoo was.
It was against the Eagles though, so we can only praise it so much. But I think he could do the same against the Giants, no problem.
Yes, that's true. And so to move on from one of the worst divisions in the NFL to one of the best, it's our segment, Who Do You Love? And this week, we're going to talk about a team that I love, which is the Seattle Seahawks. So I just want to show you guys, I want us to party a little bit with the Seahawks. This was after their win against the Los Angeles Rams. So it was a 20-9 win over the Los Angeles Rams. The Seahawks are 11-4. And we're just going to party a little bit with cornerback Shaquille Griffin.
Hello, man. Yes, sir.
Dude, I love when it's lit in the locker room.
Yes, and I do want to point out, unfortunately, the Saints were penalized a few weeks back for not following COVID protocol.
Shaquille had his mask on the whole time.
He had his mask on. See Jamal dancing. I see Pete Carroll walking in the background. That's hilarious to me. But everyone wanted to get into this video. Oh, my God. And they were wearing T-shirts. I don't have a pic of that. But it was one not done. And I love that. So they just won the game, W-O-N. Yes, but not done. So I love it. I'm so happy. I cover the Seahawks for Seahawk Maven on Sports Illustrated. And I'm happy to see this team win. They've made the playoffs again. I mean, in the Pete Carroll era, they've made the playoffs just so many times in the past decade. I believe it's 8 times in the past decade. So I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see them. They've clinched the NFC West. The conversation is done about that. Now, there's still contenders in the NFC West. We have the Los Angeles Rams, the Arizona Cardinals, and the San Francisco 49ers, which aren't going to make playoffs. But the other two might. So, but yeah, that's what I love this week. Ashmere is a little bit of a Seahawks hater, so I'm still open to hearing what you have to say about this. So.
I projected the Seattle Seahawks to win this game, and it was only because of the Russell fashion that he maintains, and that is to get the ball down the field. It did take both teams a long time, because I almost didn't want to watch the entire game, to get the ball out, and that was just good defensive performances, right? Like you said, division matchups. You said it once, you'll say it till you die. They're always different compared to other team matchups. And I think at that point, once Russell threw, I can't recall the play, but he had a nice deep pass, right for the first touchdown. And I was thinking, okay, this is it. It's in the bag. Goff is not going to be able to answer, and he's gonna lose, right? I assumed this after the loss for the Jets with the Rams. I was just thinking, okay, Seattle's won the division, and that's just because I don't know how you are the first team to give an 0-12 team their victory, right? It should have been the Raiders. So you shouldn't have been the first team to let the Jets beat you, but that was it. But I mean, you can't be upset with teams that are playing well. And I'm excited to see how the Seahawks carry into the postseason because it's going to get tougher. Everybody's like we mentioned earlier in the season, the defenses have evolved so much since like week 2 and 3. And to see them change and, attack each offense differently it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad that you actually bring up Seattle's defense because as we saw, we were letting Russ cook at the beginning of the season. And he was just putting up incredible stats. But actually, toward the end of the defense was allowing so many passing yards, right? That Seattle secondary, historically bad, numbers. But it's actually flip-flopped toward the end of the season. Not to say Russ is bad, but he hasn't been as explosive on offense, not as many passing touchdowns. We actually saw a running touchdown, which a lot of Seattle fans were happy about. It feels like vintage Russ again. Escape, rolling out of the pocket, getting that touchdown. That's what he's, great at. So, but I do have this image. This is from PFF. This is what Jamal says. I know it's his team, but he says we're the best defense in the league. And honestly, the past few weeks, they've been putting up like incredible defensive numbers. So they are, the past few games this season, they are one of the best defenses in the league. So heading into playoffs, this is a strong team. If we can see Russ be a little more dynamite the way he was at the beginning of the season, I mean, he has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson. These are stars. He even has, Greg Olsen, which is veteran. All right, we got all the things we need to make a full push in the playoffs. And as we kind of mentioned, actually the Rams and Cardinals will be facing off in week 17. So that's something that's important because that has playoff implications. But yeah, so we talked a little bit about what I love. I'm going to ask Ashmir, are you mad, bro? What are you mad about this week?
It's funny. We've switched for this week because last week I was the lover and you were the mad one. And now this week I'm the mad one and you're the lover, but I'm sure this has not come to a surprise to anybody that knows me or knows Ariana and I that I root for the Raiders. And I'm mad because the last 2 minutes and 55 seconds of the game against the Miami Dolphins, the Raiders just gave up the win. And I don't know why they doubted Ryan Fitzpatrick for who he is. I could go on about this. I think I'm still just baffled at the zero coverage call, right? When Jets defensive coordinator was just fired for that. And they're bringing Ryan Fitzpatrick in to help Tua out, right? He's done the first half of the game. It's not going so well. And they know that Fitzmagic is going to literally sprinkle some magic and bring a win in. And that's exactly what he did. And this win is important for the Dolphins because they're still fighting for the division, right? I was obviously rooting for the Raiders to win, but also I'm rooting for the Ravens. So a Raiders win would have led to like a Ravens, better projection for the playoffs. And that's what I was hoping for. But unfortunately, now things are a little tighter on the Ravens end. But yeah, I'm just mad at the end of the game at, why Josh Jacobs had to stop 2 times on the 1 yard line. Like, I understand the concept. You want to stop the clock. You don't want to give them, enough time back so they could score. I'm sorry. Have we not been watching Ryan Fitzpatrick all year? Like, I just don't understand. You could give the guy 45 seconds and he's going to figure out how to score once again. And so I think doubting that man led us to a loss, and that made me really mad. So, yeah, that's why I'm mad.
I'm going to have to agree with you. That is infuriating because so the score was actually 26-25. So it was so close. And Tua was playing a game that was good, but nothing spectacular, which is what a lot of, commentators said. But they brought in Fitzmagic toward the end of the game. And I'm going to show you an incredible pass that he got off.
Fitzpatrick can pull a trick out. He got hit as he lofted it up. Blown coverage. Mac Hollins is in bounds at the 41. It's a 34-yard gain, and there's a flag down, likely for a face mask.
And you're playing cover 2. You've been playing it all night long. You see the face mask right there, but you're playing cover 2. Situational football. Did we not just talk about that? If you're the corner, don't worry about if they.
Okay, that just. All right, so Raiders fans are happy about it.
His entire neck spun out of rotation, and he was still able to make that pass. Like, I will not take any excuses in 2021. Ryan Fitzpatrick's entire neck came off of his head, and he completed a pass and won the game. We can do anything, people, okay? We are all capable of doing it all. When that was happening, I was just, why are you putting your hands up when I feel like this is all like the way that we're shaped, right? If you're 6'5", and you're being pulled down and someone's standing straight up, your hand is going to meet their face at some point. I don't know. Maybe it's all in the moment. Maybe I'm overstepping because I had never played, a defensive lineman before. But I'm just assuming that at some point, your hand is going to meet a part of a quarterback who is the most, highlighted player on the field's incorrect places, and you're going to get a call for it. So it was just terrible.
You got to be careful, right? Know the rules, of course, and we're just commenting, so it's all in the moment. But the internet had a lot to say about Fitzmagic coming back in the last few seconds. Last thing a rookie quarterback sees before he loses his job. This face, this beard, be scared, y'all. He is here, all right? If I'm the Dolphins, I offer Ryan Fitzpatrick a contract for 2021 tomorrow morning. Backup, mentor, reliever, magician. Give him any title he'd like. I 100% agree. Okay. Not that I'm not a Tua fan, but Fitzpatrick, I think, was doing great. So it's hard for me to understand why he was benched, but okay, I'm not in the front office. But he came back and did great. Patrick Mahomes came up. I love this. I know I'm late, but best no-look pass of all time. For any NFL fans who remember, he tried to execute this a few years ago, and I'm going to show you what that looked like. This was the fake no-look pass, okay? He tried to do this, and he wasn't fooling anybody. It didn't work. Now, Mahomes has gotten him off before. I'm not saying he hasn't. But one time, he was embarrassed by just completely failing. This right here, look at that picture. Real no-look pass. His head is being yanked the other way. It's so hard to believe. But Fitzmagic did it, if anybody's going to. So now that the Dolphins, they're actually going in, they're 10-5. So they still have playoff chances. And they're actually, I believe they're going to play the Bills this week. So that's an incredibly important matchup. The Bills have clinched the division already. So, but still, yeah, a strong team coached by Brian Flores, who came from, the Patriots and the Patriot way. So he's actually doing quite well with his team. A lot of Belichick teams haven't actually done well after leaving the Patriots, but he is. So anyway, but we have a lot of talk. We actually got a comment. Where are you, Pablo? For anyone who's wondering who Pablo is, that is actually our special guest, Pablo Iglesias, and he's a freelance journalist, a talented freelance journalist, and a tormented Bears fan. But I want you guys to get to know him a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and show something that he did at his news station. This is a video that he did several weeks ago, but it's hilarious. You guys just have to see it. We're going to have him on. We're going to talk about the Bears, so just stay tuned.
We understand, and we're frustrated, we're angry. We got every feeling, trust me. Every feeling that you have, we have.
Let's keep in mind that those were Matt Nagy's comments from last week against the Packers. So if that loss was disappointing, what do you call this one? Look, getting a head start on the season of giving, the Bears gave away another one. Sunday's loss to the Lions is Chicago's 6th straight, dropping them to 5-7 overall. The kicker, how the game was lost. It was a collapse within the final minutes of the game. That Marvin Jones touchdown. This fumble by Trubisky at their own 10. And then Adrian Peterson with the go-ahead score. That would blow the 10-point Chicago lead. Mix that up in a bowl. You've got a recipe that leaves a bad, bad taste.
It was a higher scoring game that we weren't able to finish. And the only thing we can do is prepare as best as we can, stay positive, right? Keep plugging away. And lead these guys and go give it everything we got.
This was also Detroit's first game after firing Matt Patricia. Chicago welcomes in Houston next Sunday.
Hi, Pablo. We are so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Ariana Ashmere, thanks so much first and foremost for having me on here, and really just to kind of get that out there. We're here talking about the Week 17 game between the Bears and the Packers. Honestly, if I told you that the Bears are going to be playing a meaningful game this season in Week 17, I would have called you crazy just a couple weeks ago, especially at that time during that broadcast when they dropped their 6th straight against Detroit. But since then, it's been a whirlwind over these last few weeks. But excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited that they could potentially make the playoffs. But I have to ask you, as a Bears fan, now I remember the double doink from a few years ago. What is your relationship status with the Bears right now?
You know, it's tough. I don't know if I can really define what my relationship is with the Bears. They know how to break your heart, and they get really creative at how they can break your heart. I'll leave it at that. Especially, I'll tell you, I am just miles away from Soldier Field where the Bears play, and it's quite an atmosphere though, and that's the beauty of Chicago is that they'll be out there no matter whatever the weather is. Chicago Bears faithful is always going to be there, but we go through the ringer sometimes, and that's the best way I can put it, especially with the potential tournament that's going to be happening this Sunday. Hopefully it's going to be good. I'm not trying to sound pessimistic. I've just seen the way these types of games have gone, and I don't know what to expect. We'll just see come Sunday and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I want to ask you actually, I feel like something that's been a long conversation with Bears fans is what to do with Mitchell Trubisky. And I actually saw after his recent play, some NFL execs are considering keeping him. So what do you feel about that decision? Do you think they should keep him or should they move on?
You know, honestly, I'm indifferent at the moment. This is going to be a big game for Mitch Trubisky, and I'll get to that as we discuss more, but I am just so indifferent. Right now, I just feel like that the Nick Foles experiment did not work out. It was a good attempt, but really coming into the season is if you have 2 quarterbacks and they're still trying to fight for the starting job, as we saw in a training camp, Matt Nagy didn't really make an announcement until just a few days until the Week 1 game against Detroit that Mitch was going to be the starter. It was already going to be a potential recipe for disaster, and it's been an up and down. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but going back to that point is that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't know which one to use, you already don't have a quarterback. I think that what Trubisky has shown, especially from his second year as a full-time starter, I liked when they let him loose, but Matt Nagy, maybe he's getting a little cute. Maybe they're just starting to be a little too conservative. There's a lot of different things in this Bears offense that I think they're just trying to reinvent the wheel. And there's you just take a step back, just play Chicago Bears brand football with some strong defense, and you need to get the offense out there, though. That's the big thing, is that the defense does their job. That's always been the Chicago Bears brand. But that is just something that I just feel like with Mitch Trubisky, again, I'm very indifferent when it comes to him, and just figuring out whether or not we decide to keep him. And I'll tell you this, I was actually at Dick's Sporting Goods yesterday. I saw a lot of Mitch Trubisky jerseys on the clearance rack, and I'm going to go with a hot take here. You're going to start seeing more of that come this offseason. Not saying that Mitch is not the guy. I just don't think he's the guy for Chicago. Free agency, they're going to be a good opportunity for that, and I think teams will definitely jump into that. Whether he's going to be a starter, whether he's going to be the backup, he'd be a phenomenal backup right now. But that's where I stand with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, so definitely belongs on an NFL team, but maybe not with the Bears and maybe not as a starter. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, but I do want to actually talk about Allen Robinson. I've been paying attention to him this fantasy season, and maybe with Mitch's increased play, he's been doing a lot better. Can you talk a little bit about how he's gotten better this season?
Allen has deserved an extension since day one, since training camp, honestly. And we saw the type of holdout, or not holdout, but the what he tried to do on social media, taking the Bears out of his bio and everything, and that man eats, I swear. And even in the just horrendous loss against the Packers, he still has been putting up big numbers. He had 2 of 3 touchdowns. Those are some big things. And also to talk about David Montgomery being part of that offense, those are 2 guys and just a mix of different things that are going on. But I got to talk about A-Rob. This is a guy that has not gotten his payday. It's well past due. And who knows, maybe this is my hot take coming back to bite me. If they do keep Mitch Trubisky, that's fine. But you got to pay Allen Robinson. Otherwise, he's a walk. And you think about the other team that he's been on. He really hasn't had the prime quarterback to throw to him. Mitch Trubisky might be the quote-unquote best next to Nick Foles. He dealt with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville, and we all kind of know how that experiment went. We'll just leave it at that. But pay the man. He is just a dog. He will always go out there, minus the Detroit game where he tried to go after that first down and just went out of bounds. That's the one scrimmage that I think I have against Allen Robinson. Can you tell I'm a Bears fan?
Not really. Okay, so oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just go ahead.
I was gonna say, after the last playoffs loss, how hopeful are you about the team beating out other NFC teams if they do end up making the playoffs? I know it's a tough question.
Trust me, and it's such a week by week thing, unfortunately, with this team. I'd love to say that they can easily match up with NFC teams, but I'll tell you this: the playoffs have started, even though you're playing a 1-13 team, now 1-14 team of Jacksonville last week. The playoffs the mentality had almost kind of started for the Chicago Bears. They needed to win out to control their own destiny, basically. This is going to be a huge test, and they're going to be playing pretty much the number one seed, or unless some crazy things happen in the NFC, one of the top two teams in the NFC with the Green Bay Packers. So it's going to be a big test here. We'll see how they answer, and hopefully if it comes out to a win, which would then result in a playoff berth, anything's possible. Hopefully they could boost up and play an NFC East team, because we saw how those standings are and what kind of crapshoot that looks like in that division. But it's gonna be a big test this week to see how they could stand against other NFC teams.
Pablo, I have to just take it to the comments. We're getting a lot of comments. You are so popular. You just have so many fans. And I just want to show you some of the things that people are saying. So, someone's friends with your dad. Love to see you. All right. They see you back home. All right. Yeah, we love the background, by the way. We were talking about that earlier. We love the lights. Very cool vibe. Okay. This is from a mutual friend.
Oh, my gosh.
How handsome. So we love it. All right. But we also have some people that are asking you questions. So I'd like to know what you think. Well, this is more of a comment, but this is that he needs an offensive line. But I'm going to transition to a question. So apparently your dad says Mitch Trubisky's the Bears' savior. Pablo Jr., what do you think?
Oh, gosh.
We're calling out Dad now. Sorry, Dad.
I know that my dad is absolutely trolling me, so I'm going to do what I absolutely love to do is just bust out the numbers. Mitch Trubisky against the Green Bay Packers. I'm not saying I don't have faith in him. I'm just saying it's going to be an interesting game, because Mitch coming into this game is 1-5 against the Green Bay Packers. And that one win, he had a couple touchdowns, 230-something yards, and it was really more of a defensive game for the Chicago Bears. And this was against the Green Bay Packers team that wasn't really that characteristic. They didn't even make the playoffs, and unfortunately, my heart is sinking as I say this. That was the double doink year. But going through it, just a passing completion percentage of over 60%, 1,500 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, which is nice. But really, when it came to that last game, 2 of those were garbage, if not all 3 were garbage time touchdowns. 5 interceptions. The other thing, too, is that looking at from the last game is that the Bears, or Chicago, mostly Mitch Trubisky, went 26 of 46 from passing. The other side of it, too, is that Aaron Rodgers completed 21 passes, sure, but he only had 29 attempts. So the other thing is that they have a divided attack. And when it comes to Mitch Trubisky, and I know, again, a 41-10 win against Jacksonville is phenomenal. But I feel like a lot of people want to keep going back to, and call me out if I'm wrong, but a lot of people want to go back to the interception that Mitch Trubisky had into the end zone, that thankfully Roquan Smith was the savior and brought them back to reality with that interception. But again, a lot of people were questioning what's Mitch Trubisky going to look like, and especially in those big games, it was always the defense that stepped up. And what is he going to be like under pressure? This is going to be a high pressure game, no doubt. Yes, you've got the home field advantage, but it's still going to feel a little different.
Yeah, actually, when I think about the Chicago defense and like rebuilding that, especially, obviously we like to think about the Oh, this is an interesting question. We will get back to that. I apologize. But yeah, I think back to that 1985 Bears, of course, and we're always kind of waiting for these big defenses to come back. And Ashmere, unfortunately, you lost Khalil Mack to his fan. I mean, your fan base lost that to his. So, Pablo, how much did that particular trade affect the Bears even until today?
Well, I know that we had to take Khalil Mack away from Raider faithful, but at the same point, Raider Nation, should I say? I gotta be correct with that specifically. Got to give you the shout out there. But you got Josh Jacobs in return from that draft pick. But going from that to Khalil Mack, the unfortunate side is that Khalil has never really been 100% on that defense. But overall, that was the fun thing about the 2018 team, was that the defense, they were just dogs, and they've always been dogs. But over time, because of the amount, and just going with, again, the last Bears-Packers game, Green Bay owned that time of possession by, I'm looking at it right now, by nearly 15 minutes, a little over 15 minutes. So you think about how long the defense is out there. That's just one game. And you think about how many times in general that defense is out there, they're already just hanging by a thread in some of those games. So it comes down to time of possession when you look at it from that perspective. But still love Khalil Mack, still love the energy that the defense brings, but it's all about that balanced attack and making sure that the offense is utilizing that play clock, not trying to do too much. Again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Just go out there. You can't make mistakes this week, but the offense really needs to show up.
Yeah,
completely agree. And that's what we saw in the playoffs last time was, with the double doink. But it was that defense being so strong and the offense not really pulling their weight. And then they have to do that in this very important game. So I'm going to go back to that question. So they beat this Jags team, but as you said, come on, they're actually the worst team in the NFL, not the Jets anymore. So, but do the Bears have a chance to beat Green Bay? What do you think?
So here's my thing with what the Bears need to be mindful of is that we're going to go to this Sunday night game that they played against the Titans. And the Titans, they were not an easy team by any means. In Green Bay, I will say, granted, yes, they were at Lambeau. They had the elements. They had the snow. So they had a little bit of that advantage. But I will say, regardless, they still start out strong. They still start out fast. I'm going to break it down with numbers. Their first 3 possessions, they had all touchdowns. And they ate up nearly 9 minutes of clock going into just right into the second quarter. And that's on 22 plays as well. So that's a mix of that's a mix of passing, that's a mix of running, and they've got that balanced attack. The other thing, too, is that Davante Adams, we know that he's a bad, bad man, and he proved it. On what was it? I've got it right here. On 12 targets, he caught 11 of those. He had 3 touchdowns. I will give a shout-out to Sandeep as he's commenting over here that Sandeep does have Davante Adams. We were in the championship game facing each other, and unfortunately, Davante was the guy who knocked me out. Game, but not bitter, not salty about that or anything. But anyway, you do want to make sure that if Green Bay does start out hot, you got to come right back out at them. Or the more you can contain them, that's going to be a big thing because this Green Bay team is going to attack you quick. They're going to attack you with Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers loves to go with him. And the other side of it, too, is that the next man up, A.J. Dillon, you saw Aaron Jones had some hip issues. He was dealing with a little bit of that turf toe. Jamal Williams ended up being out. And then they just called up the rookie who ended up going for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns on about 20-plus carries. He ended up having less carries than Derrick Henry, which the Green Bay defense, they've been on, they've been off, but they get the job done, and they've gotten the job done as of late. And to stop the number 1 rusher in Derrick Henry last week to the numbers that he had on top of 4 catches for A.J. Brown on 8 targets. I mean, those 2 guys, especially from, as we all know from the fantasy football aspect, those are 2 big names. And for the Green Bay Packers defense to stop them like that, yes, the Bears are going to have their hands full, but I don't necessarily see them, or I'm not counting them out. They just do have a lot on their plate when it comes to this Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We're just
I completely agree.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I just have one last question for you. Thank you for that, Pablo. But I wanted to add, I'm sorry, I'm like reading the comments and everything, trying to keep engaged. You have so many fans. I'm loving it. But I do want to ask you, someone asked, So, what are you thinking about Super Bowl picks? I know you just talked about how incredible this Green Bay Packers team is, and obviously they're a favorite for the NFC, and I can definitely see that happening. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I got to say that Green Bay is not only the toughest team coming out of the NFC North. Well, granted, yes, the Bears would be the only other team that would make it out of the NFC North if they win on Sunday. I do see this being a Packers Chiefs. That is definitely something that fans would love. You think about the run and gun offense that Kansas City has been. I love the energy that they bring in. The same thing with Green Bay. Again, once more that balanced attack. They've got Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams. I was listening to some stuff earlier. He does make other players better. Guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Robert Tonyan. Those are just a bunch of different names because again, with the guy like Devontae Adams, you got to watch him. And you've got to put your number one guy on him, but you've got some other options that, are just as dangerous. And, of course, with Aaron Jones in the backfield, Jamal Williams, and some potential red zone opportunities. And like I said, now you've almost built a little bit of a committee with A.J. Dillon. And the defense is doing its solid job. That's the matchup that I'm going to be curious about is where is Jair Alexander, their Pro Bowler, going to be? He, as I was looking in the last game, 50% completion. I believe there were 12 targets. He made sure that only 6 catches were made when anytime the ball went towards his direction. So he's going to be pretty solid. I'd imagine that he's going to be watching either Allen Robinson or Darnell Mooney. So it's going to be a tough day, but we'll see if those wide receivers break out for them. But going back to the question, I think Kansas City speaks for itself too. They've just got weapons on weapons. You throw them into the offense. Maybe it's Mecole Hardman. Maybe it's Demarcus Robinson or Travis Kelce, who's already having a record-breaking season. Kansas City is just unstoppable on offense, and the defense comes up when they need to.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. That's what I imagine. Even though I root for the Seahawks, I can see the Packers taking it. But and that's just how it is as fans. But Pablo, I want to ask you: is there anything that you want to say to all the Bears fans out there who are feeling what you feel?
Something will happen. Again, as I said, if you spoke to me, especially over when we showed that clip actually from the Detroit Lions game, I was just devastated, and I was happy to have that type of platform to vent out professionally those feelings. That's for sure. Yeah, I think we're seeing right here. It would be a miracle if the Bears go all the way. That would be something. But just know that something will happen on Sunday. Maybe it's a win, maybe it's a loss. But yeah, we're gonna see how this goes. And but honestly, if it's a loss, I'm cleaning house. I think the experiment is over. You gotta start over. That's the best thing that the Bears can do here. But again, it's not impossible to win this game. The Bears, once again, just need to make sure that they play perfect football. They got to come out of the gates. And going back to Sunday's game, too, against the Jaguars, I was actually pretty upset. And then the third quarter came around. Things were a little easier. But to play a team like that, you cannot start out that slow against the Green Bay Packers. So that's what I would say to Bears faithful. Bear down. That's the big thing. But, we're just going to fasten our seatbelts because on the other side, this is a different Bears team. This isn't the same Bears team that got blown out 41-25 on Sunday Night Football. So we should be seeing a different Bears team. It just depends on the type of product that Matt Nagy puts on that field come Sunday, and we'll go from there.
I love it. And this is just another message from Pablo. So his newsroom knew that he was indeed a Bears fan. Guys, this picture just encapsulates it. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate having you. And how can people follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on here. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Pablo Iglesias TV. Also on Instagram, I am same handle, but I'm Pablo Iglesias _TV. And then you can find me on Facebook, Pablo Iglesias Sports Anchor. I could drop those in the comments. But Thank you again so much for having me. Hopefully, like I said, didn't think we were going to be talking about relevant Chicago Bears football in Week 17, but as we've seen in 2020, it's just been a wild year. So why not cap it off by talking about Chicago Bears football come Week 17?
Well, know that I am rooting for the Bears. So You've got a fan here this weekend.
We love it. Thank you so much. All right. Well, that's all that we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunday Slay, although it is a Wednesday. And we'll catch you guys next week on Monday night to talk about Week 17. Bye.
In the new year.
Yes, in the new year. That's true. That's true.
I was like, wait, the year's ending. So happy new year to you and happy new year to all the viewers.
Happy New Year to you and all the viewers, and we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.